All right. Let's call this LAFCO meeting to order. The date is Wednesday, October 23rd, and the time is 6 p.m. If I could ask everyone to please stand, I'll ask Member Berryhill to please lead us in the pledge.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Bill. All right, we're going to do introduction of commissioners. I'll start on my right this time.
Oh, okay, throw me a curveball.
I know. Terry got up.
Bill Berryhill, alternate public member.
Richard O'Brien, city member.
Vito Chiesa, county member.
And Terry Withrow, county member.
No, I really threw you for a loop.
Jennifer Vieira, Commission Clerk.
Rob Tiro, LAFCO Council.
Sarah Lettle-Penny, Executive Officer.
Javier Camarena, Assistant Executive Officer.
All right, thank you very much for all being here. We're going to move on to item 2, which is the public comment period. It's an opportunity to speak on anything that's not on today's posted agenda. Obviously, we cannot take any action. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you go over 10 seconds, it's okay, because there's no one else here. First one up is Jeannie Ferrari. Welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you. And Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Jeannie Ferrari, a lifelong resident of Stanislaus County and the community of Turlock for 58 years. I'm speaking as a founding director of Farmland Working Group. This organization has been supporting sustainable growth and opposing poor land use proposals for 25 years. Nothing will impact the future of this county or the future of its residents' quality of life more than the votes by the Stanislaus LAFCO commissioners. That's huge. Long after my life and your lives, the decisions that you make as LAFCO commissioners will determine if this county, rich in productive agricultural land and open spaces, will remain an ag-producing region and have sustainable cities. Some of our cities continue standing on the edges of their borders to look for housing opportunities. All 9 cities need to practice infill, building up, and repurposing blighted areas first. And importantly, we as a county must commit to building on the poorest soils. Less than 3% of the world's surface can produce food and fiber. It makes no sense to build on our best soils while overlooking the poorest soils and least productive land. Stanislaus LAFCO needs to do what it was created to do: promote sustainable urban growth and protect farmland and open space. To do that, the commissioners will need to say no to poor land use proposals. In closing, Farmland Working Group submitted comments on the City of Riverbank's Riverwalk Environmental Impact Report. The project fails to meet the requirements of sustainable growth and the protection of farmland and open space. The residents of Stanislaus County should always be able to look to the leadership of Stanislaus LAFCO commissioners. Citizens shouldn't be required to become land use agents by putting urban limit initiatives on the ballot. The Riverwalk is opposed by the League of Women Voters, Stanislaus County, Voters for Farmland, Audubon Society, Stanislaus County, Sierra Club Yokuts chapter, and more than 1,542 qualified residents of Riverbank who signed the proposed urban limit initiative for Riverbank. Farmland Working Group is opposed to the Riverwalk project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Next up, we have Jamie Agers.
Good evening, Jamie Agers, 7730 McHenry Avenue, Modesto, California. Excuse me. Also a lifelong resident of Stanislaus County. You've heard from me many times over the past 3.5 years speaking in opposition to the proposed Riverwalk project. You've also heard from me about the ballot initiative that we tried in 2023, but were unsuccessful due to a fraudulent paid signature gatherer. You also know that we tried again this year, and in just under 3 weeks, we qualified for the ballot. Those signatures were sent to the Stanislaus Register of Voter, and in early September, they qualified us for the ballot. I would just like to share with you this evening that the Riverbank City Council took an action on September the 10th to certify the Register of Voters findings and forwarded the initiative to the next general election, which will be November 2026. So I just would like to enter a copy of this, the initiative language and the council action into the record. So do I just provide that to you, Jennifer?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. Seeing no other public members here, I'm going to move on to correspondence. We do have quite a few correspondence, informal, in the news, some interesting reads, actually, some good information in there today. If there are no questions on that, I'll move on to number 4, declaration of conflicts and disqualifications. Start to my left, any? No conflicts? To my
No
right?
conflicts.
No conflicts and no conflicts for myself. All right, the consent items, and the minutes, the legislative update, year-end financial report, and municipal services review on the sphere of influence update. Anyone want to talk about any one of those items? Pull them. Any public member want to discuss any of those items? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Passes 4-0. Going to move on to item 5, the public hearing on the proposed amendment to policy 15, out-of-boundary service contracts or agreements. Sarah.
Yes, so this is a follow-up from the item we had at the Commission's September meeting that looked at policy 15 and requested some direction from the Commission. Staff provided a report at that time giving an analysis of policy 15, which is related to out-of-boundary service extensions by districts and cities outside of their boundaries. The Commission provided direction to staff, and we're back here with proposed changes. As a quick background, and I'm not going to dig into the full issues like we did last time, but just for the basis of why policy 15 exists, the government code requires that LAFCO approve any request by a city or district to extend services outside its boundaries. It's considered an exception to the rule. Normally, annexation is the means by which a city or district provides services, and there are specific instances where an extension of service can be appropriate, either within the sphere in anticipation of a future annexation or outside of a sphere to respond to a health and safety issue. So the Commission has adopted policy 15 to help navigate some of these exceptions. It emphasizes, of course, that annexation is the priority and is preferred for services. It provides factors for different instances where an out-of-boundary could be appropriate. It also allows for area-wide approvals, which we talked about, that the Commission has used to help get water and sewer service to islands before they're annexed. And then there's a section that delegates approval authority specifically for the executive officer. So going through the discussion that we had last month, we identified some areas where there could be improvements. One of those related to the section that allows the executive officer to approve out-of-boundary extensions for existing development. The current policy doesn't really distinguish where those are located, and the Commission recommended that those be confined to being inside the sphere of influence, and that will help eliminate an issue where the executive officer could potentially be approving something that's growth-inducing. So we've added that in. Also in the executive officer delegation section, we talked about how the executive officer is limited to only approving requests for existing development for health and safety. And we talked about how accessory dwelling units are sometimes considered new development, sometimes trigger sewer or water requirements. And so the update, or the proposed update to the policy, would call those out specifically, but also allow the executive officer to go ahead and approve anything that's not going to be triggering new development or growth inducing. There's also a section that we talked about that highlights some of the government code exemptions. And these are instances where agencies don't necessarily need to come to LAFCO for approval. There's been an issue that some counties have identified where agencies may self-exempt, where they don't consult with LAFCO staff beforehand and they provide the service, and then later they find out that LAFCO approval really was needed. Staff kind of discussed that hasn't been a problem here necessarily, but we did see an opportunity for improvement to that section to at least encourage agencies to consult with us to either determine if they're exempt or also to maybe discover that they already have an existing approval in place. And so we were hoping that that just reinforces the best practices that we already have, but it also gives them at least the encouragement to consult with staff about the appropriate thing to do. So the recommendation at this point is to go ahead and find the proposed amendment to be consistent with state law and the overall goals of LAFCO, and also find that the amendment is not a project for the purposes of CEQA, as it has no possibility of a significant impact to the environment, and then to go ahead and adopt the Policy 15 amendment to be effective immediately. And staff is available for questions.
Sarah, we had asked this question, I think it came up at the last meeting when we were talking about the self-exempting happening in other. Has that happened in this county at all that you know of, that you're aware of? I think
No, the most that we've seen here, and Javi and I try to track city council agendas to see it come up. The most that we've seen is when there's new staff, they tend to forget that there's the next step is LAFCO. So if we see something on a city council agenda where somebody is proposing to extend water or sewer, say, outside the city's boundaries, and we haven't heard about it prior to, we contact them and let them know, hey, we see this is on your agenda, or we see that you've approved this. We want to make sure you're aware that the next step is to come to LAFCO.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not a good use of the water because it could be a health and safety or something, but it's that this is the state law at this point. I think, and just for the public members really quickly, allowing the executive director, we had this discussion about what might have a more ministerial look to it, for lack of a better word, is when we're talking about ADUs, accessory dwelling units, that's infill, that's density, the things we want already on a parcel, allowing that water to not come to this board to do ADUs, because that's something that the state wants, it's something the county wants, it's something the cities want, and we thought that and anything that's not growth inducing. So we have lots of requests out there that are just kind of out in the, to school districts to get drinking water. The county islands, when they came before LAFCO, to put in sewer lines, especially in West Modesto and Terry's district and Chance's district. There are lots of great opportunities, but they come through LAFCO as a part of the process. And this is only allowing the executive director to cut off some of these things that I would characterize them as ministerial, and I think everyone else. We had a long discussion. So reading through this, as long as it's consistent with state law, which I think it is, and so I'm very pleased with what came out of this, and I'll be supporting it. Other board members?
No, I missed the last meeting, so I missed all the discussion, but
It was good discussion.
this looks good.
Yeah, really good discussion. Anything?
No, I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Well, it might pertain to it. There's still building going on in the county section between Oakdale and Riverbank in a little green belt, building little ranchettes. So how does that happen? Because there's ranchettes out there that probably should not have been out there. Is there a process for that? That doesn't go through LAFCO?
There's not, and so they would be doing on-site services, well and septic. And they
No,
would,
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's just for Policy 15.
Right.
But we're talking about,
eliminating expansion, but they're still building ranchettes, little McDonald mansion, whatever they
Yeah.
call them, McMansions, or not, just, 2-acre farmlands.
So I can assure you the county's not doing down zoning like that anymore, but
Okay.
pre-72, 71, 72, I can't remember exactly the year, you were pretty much able to,
Well,
to
okay.
change zoning.
Maybe it's grandfathered in.
Yeah,
These are-
grandfather, yeah.
Okay, so those parcels are supposed to be agriculture between Oakdale and Riverbank. You can see that there clearly is not.
And there's no way to make it an economic unit. And that, again, the Williams Act contracts or the preventer of getting people to, we're trying to, as we're going through our general plan update, they're trying to configure, because people have a right, if you have 40 acres, to build 2 houses. Now they're trying to put the houses together within 100 feet or less, and it is because most people would build one in the back, one in the front, and then it becomes less viable for agriculture. Trying to build your house in the corner, then in the middle of the field, and going in and building a McMansion. So we've been pretty cognizant of it, and we're trying to figure out ways to make it even more palatable.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public if there are no more questions. Any comments on this policy? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for adoption.
I will make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
I second.
Okay, we have the first and second of the proposed amendment to policy 15. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I didn't hear you.
Aye.
There we go. Passes 4-0. That's fantastic. All right, moving on to number 7, other business. We have none. Commissioner comments. Left or right?
Nothing.
Got nothing?
You already answered mine.
Okay, that's a good question, and I would, if you send me those addresses, I want to see when they were zoned
Okay.
back, because there are specific areas around in Houston, on Walnut, and some other areas where they're busted up into 5-acre parcels, and it's amazing how dust and spraying and noise and
It's
those
the
the
worst
things that happen,
use.
yeah.
It's the worst use.
Yeah, and so it's a tough deal to farm around too.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, additional matters for the discussion of the chairman, there are none. Executive Director report.
Yes, we are anticipating receiving an application from the city of Houston for an annexation of St. Anthony's Church. That should be going to their city council, I believe, next week. The 2025 work program will be on an upcoming agenda with our next round of municipal service review updates. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 4th, 2024. We would consider that tentative at this point. I don't anticipate us receiving the annexation application in time to make that meeting. And if not, we'll let you know, and then our next meeting would be January 22nd, 2025.
January of 2025?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I won't be chairman then. That's really good. All right. Nothing else for the good of the order? This meeting is adjourned at 6:18.